Welcome to EOZ TV. Excuse me, I'm Elder, a little bit rusty, so I apologize. This is not going to be as well organized a show as I normally have, only because I put it together fast. Because the anti-Semitism that's coming out nowadays is so insane, and it's making me so angry and scared that I just have to get this off my chest. So, as usual, you can feel free to talk in the chat. If I have a chance, I can respond to what you say. If somebody would put in the chat to make sure that you can hear what I'm saying, I would appreciate that too. And we're just going to start with the stuff that I just put together. Not a long time ago, in 2019, I put together a list of different types of anti-Semitism over the years, and showing how anti-Semitism has morphed really amazingly over time. It's, to things that are completely opposite of what earlier versions were. So, like ancient Greek anti-Semitism, which was, some people argue whether it's anti-Semitism or not, but they would ridicule Judaism. Some people say, they hated everybody that wasn't Greek, so it wasn't specifically anti-Semitism. But actually, it goes before that, because even before the Greeks, there's anti-Semitism. It's in the Torah. There's anti-Semitism from Pharaoh. He says very explicitly, hey, the Jews are going to be more powerful. They're going to become a fifth column. And, these are just the first set of anti-Semitic lies that ever came up. And and Haman, in the Purim story, was a classic anti-Semite, in which just because one Jew didn't do what he wanted, he decided he had to wipe everybody out. Anti-Semitism is ancient, and it's not going away. We're not going to solve the problem, but we don't have to make the problem worse, and that's what's happening nowadays. So, again, going back, there was Hellenistic anti-Semitism. There was, Roman anti-Semitism that they would persecute Jews for practicing Judaism to begin with, and they were not the first ones to do that. Christian anti-Semitism, saying that Jews were Christ killers. There's the Islamic anti-Semitism, which regards Jews as deceitful and as being the murderers or prophets. Yes, I should do this more often, Lenny. Thank you. The medieval European anti-Semitism, which included the Crusades. The Crusades include the official, the classic blood libel, saying that the Jews are the people that were responsible for epidemics. Does that sound familiar? We've heard it all in this past year as well. The Inquisition. There was Lutheran anti-Semitism, which was vicious, which directly called for pogroms. That say the Jews were blasphemous. Then came the Enlightenment. People thought, oh, the Enlightenment, these people are smart, they're philosophers. But no, they were anti-Semitic too. Voltaire called Jews an ignorant and barbarous people. And then there's socialist anti-Semitism. Marx, he was Jewish, but he said anti-Semitic stuff. They said that Jews were the corrupting force behind capitalism. But then came racial anti-Semitism, which was what the Nazis were basing their anti-Semitism for, saying the Jews are an inferior race and therefore should be wiped out. Then there was also, and actually before the Nazis, there was conspiracy theory anti-Semitism, which is the protocols of the Elders of Zion. Jews are secretly controlling the world, the media, the banks, and then came modern anti-Semitism, which is what we're seeing now, which is expressed as anti-Zionism. Historically, Arabs, have Arabs been anti-Semitic? Yes, they definitely were. Arabs and Muslims definitely looked down on Jews, but they looked down on Christians as well as second-class citizens. Jews specifically were despised as being a weak people. But a lot of the more Muslim and Arab anti-Semitism actually morphed a little bit in the 20th century with a great influence from Arab Christians. They took the classic Christian anti-Semitism and threw in, the conspiracy theory anti-Semitism, and they spread that among the Muslim Arabs. The newspapers that were in the Middle East, especially in Palestine in the teens and 20s, were mostly written by Christians, not by Muslims, and that's where a lot of the current flavor of Arab anti-Semitism actually came from, as it is nowadays. So And so if you look at all of these all these versions of anti-Semitism, and we've made this point many times before, it whatever a group of people hates the most, they assign to the Jews. So, if you are a communist and you hate capitalism, then the Jews are behind capitalism. If you're a capitalist or you're a KKK person or something like that, and you hate communism, then the Jews are the communists. The Jews are the people who are who try to infiltrate everybody and try to become like everybody else. But the Jews are also people who stay apart and who don't want to assimilate with anybody else. All of the attributes are always going to be, given to Jews. In today's mindset and in today's time frame, the worst possible thing among progressives and among the radical left, the worst thing you can be is to be a racist. The worst thing you can be is to be a colonialist. So therefore, Jews are those people. They'll say it's Israelis. They'll say they don't have anything to do with Jews, but the hate that animates it is exactly the same as the hate that has animated anti-Semitism throughout time. So I'm just going to go briefly into modern Arab anti-Semitism because everybody, the people will insist today that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. So the original anti-Zionists obviously were the Arabs in Palestine, because they were the ones that were the most against a Jewish state. And if you look at it, their entire history up until, for the first 50 years or so of they were very explicit. For the first 50 years in response to Zionism, they were very explicit as far as that they hated Jews. They wouldn't say Zionists; they said Jews. They were very clear about this. The Mufti is obviously Mufti is obviously the biggest example. We all know that he was a collaborator with the Nazis in the Peel Commission. I just saw this quote just tonight, and I just thought it was very interesting. The Peel Commission, which was trying to decide what to do in the wake of the Arab riots, which killed hundreds of Jews, although it did kill more Arabs. They asked, okay, if you could have the state the way you want it, what's it going to be? And at first he said, oh, we'll take care of the Jews. They'll the Jews live okay under Arab countries. We're fine with it. And then Lord Peel from the Peel Commission said, if you reach an agreement, if you reach an agreement with the English to get what you want, will you be prepared to allow the Jews to remain in the country? And the Mufti wouldn't even say that. He would say, oh, the government will have to decide then, and we'll figure out how to deal with it at the appropriate time. And and then when they say, well, do you think that the country can assimilate and digest the 400,000 Jews that are now in the country? And the Mufti goes, no, some Jews are going to have to be kicked out of Palestine. That's what he said. This is 1937. And then Peel asked him, some of them would have to be removed by a process, kindly or painful as the case might be. And he goes, oh, we'll leave that to the future. So already the Mufti in 1937 was saying we must ethnically cleanse Jews from Palestine. So, the people that are nowadays saying that, oh, the Arabs welcomed them with open arms and they gave them food and, and then sheltered them from Europe, it's all garbage. They did everything they could to stop immigration of Jews from Europe. And because, and this is something we can never, ever forgive either the Arabs or the British for, the white paper, the British white paper that came out as a result of this, that said that, because in order to try to avoid the riots, they figure, oh, we're going to have to placate the Arabs. So where they said that there would be, they vastly reduced the number of legal immigrants of Jews from Europe to Palestine, and as a result, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Jews died because of this. So we can never ever forgive the Arabs or ever forgive the British for what they did as far as that's concerned. That's slightly besides the point. But clearly the Mufti was anti-Semite. He was an anti-Semite even before this. In 1920 already, he started the rumor that the Jews are going to destroy Al-Aqsa, which is a complete lie, but he did it both because he was an anti-Semite and in order for him to be able to gain more fame in the Arab world. And then, of course, is what he did among the Nazis. But beyond that, if you just look up, there's the Wikipedia page for Arab boycott. The Arabs started boycotting Jews in mandatory Palestine. Actually, I believe it's before 1922. I'm pretty sure I have evidence that there were Arab boycotts that are even in the teens. But they were against Jews. They didn't say Zionists, they said Jews, a boycott of Jewish businesses. The official Arab League boycott, the first official Arab League boycott, was December 1945. It was essentially the first decision that came out from the Arab League, and for the many years of the Arab League from then until last year, coming up with anti-Israel resolutions or anti-Jewish resolutions was pretty much the only thing the Arab League ever really agreed on. If they ever needed to unify behind something, it was hate of Jews. Always happened. So, but at any rate, the Arab League boycott was very explicit, saying, products of Palestinian Jews are to be considered undesirable in Arab countries. There was something very interesting that happened after the establishment of the State of Israel. The Arab League boycott continued. They considered, and I didn't see this until I saw this article, they considered boycotting Germany because Germany started their reparations program for the Holocaust and started paying Israel as reparations for the horrors that they inflicted on Jews and the slave labor. And the Arab League opposed this agreement. They opposed Jews getting reparations for being, free slave labor for years. So this is pure anti-Semitism. I'm sorry, there's no way you can spin this as anti-Zionism. This is anti-Semitism. But it goes beyond that, because Jordan was in charge. Oh, I don't have that here. I don't know. Jordan was in charge of the Old City, obviously, from 1949 until 1967, and they banned all Jews from coming to the Old City. Not Zionists, not Israelis, Jews. There was even a case in which a member of Canada's parliament who happened to be Jewish wanted to visit. Here's a diplomat, a member, or an official rather, a member of parliament. He went to Jerusalem through Israel. He wanted to visit the Old City, and they said, no, you can't. Why? Because you're a Jew. The Jordan actually would check if you were a Christian and wanted to visit, because Christians were allowed to visit. They would check baptismal certificates to make sure that you were really a Christian, to make sure that no Jews were sneaking in to Jerusalem. This is, again, 19 years. Everybody said, they say, oh, we're not anti. This is pure anti-Semitism from Jordan that nobody objected to. And unbelievably, even the nation of Canada didn't object to their own member of parliament being, not allowed to visit Jerusalem, and the pure anti-Semitism. It's unbelievable, but this is the way things were. Even more so, going back to the Arab boycott, the Arab boycotters weren't just boycotting. Again, people could say, oh, maybe it was just those only Jews in Palestine. No, they were looking to boycott companies that were owned by Jews. And this was in the Congressional Record. This was in 1956. They would write letters to people that they were trying to do business with, and they said, we very much regret to inform you our government has duly published a notice announcing that any importers of Saudi Arabia must not be permitted to import the goods from any Jewish firms of the world. Okay? We're not talking Israel, we're talking Jewish firms of the world. We've listed your name as being a Jewish firm, so the steps are taken. We can't do this. We obliged to cable you to stop shipments of our orders. But we're obliged to ask you, let us have full particulars as to what faith your firm is belong, is it Jewish or Christian? And so, you know what, if you're really a Christian firm, then we can apologize and let you have it. This is the Arab League, official Arab League policy for companies around the world. Now, again, most companies told them to drop dead, which they should have. They said, this is ridiculous. We're not going to go along with it. But this was still official policy, and this is certainly in Saudi Arabia and of other Arab countries as well. But it's even today too. If you look at BDS, the way BDS works today, they're saying, oh, we're only boycotting Israel. But no, that's not true, or they say we're only boycotting settlements. Some of them will try to say be a little bit more subtle, but that's not true either, because the ones that, and I've done this, and I don't have it in front of me right now, but look at Who Profits. There's a website called Who Profits, in which they give a list of all of the Jewish-owned businesses in the territories, and it's really only Jewish-owned businesses, because I did a survey once of in like industrial zones like Atarot and Barkan and other ones that are in the territories. there are stores and there are shops that are owned by Arabs, that are owned by Israeli Arabs that are in these industrial zones alongside the shops and the businesses that are owned by Jews. And those are not listed in Who Profits. Those aren't listed in the BDS blacklists. They only list the businesses that are owned by Jews. It's explicit anti-Semitism still happening today, right? You cannot avoid that. They don't try to, they'll call all the Arabs of Israel, all the Israeli Arabs, they're going to call them Palestinians, and therefore they say, well, we're not boycotting Palestinians, we're only boycotting Israelis. But the only people that are Israelis are Jews, because the Israeli Arabs they don't consider Israelis, and you ask them, they don't call them Israelis, they call them Palestinians. So this is, again, pure anti-Semitism across the board. Is in the modern sense, anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. So let's bring things up to now. What's going on during this war? During this war, we've been seeing sickening examples of anti-Semitism. We've been seeing these, and I have a few of them over here. This is already a week old. There's been more stuff since then. But, here in Belgium, Chaiber Ayahu, they're chanting, Chaiber, O Jews, the army of Muhammad will return, which is saying, hey, we're reminding you Jews that, remember what happened in Chaiber? Hey, we managed to pretty much destroy all the Jews in Chaiber. We're going to come back and do the same thing. It's a direct call to genocide, and it's happening in European capitals today. Here's a picture of a Jewish man who went through, in the middle of New York City, okay? He went through an anti-Israel rally. They'll call it pro-Palestinian, but it's not a pro-Palestinian rally. It's an anti-Israel rally. If it's pro-Palestinian, they would say good things about Palestine. They would say good things about Palestinians. They would talk about, hey, let's raise money in order to help the people of Gaza and the people of the West Bank, and give them give them business, and they don't do that sort of stuff, except in very, very small, rare cases. They'll buy some symbolic olive oil and say, oh, I did my part. But they don't do any of that stuff. They put money into trying to to hurt Israel, whether it's boycotting Israel or whether it's to do political damage against Israel. He went through he walked through this anti-Israel rally, and they said, oh, he said very mean things. I think what he said was, I'm pro-Israel or something like that. Look, he got bloodied. He was beaten up, and they were justifying it. If you looked at the video, they were justifying it by saying, oh, he said hateful stuff. Like, that justifies this. In Toronto, this is just like unreal. There was like a Jew. Also, he is a counter-protester. Admittedly, he's a counter-protester. But they took sticks and they beat him. Let's find it here. You see it here. 3 people or 2 people with sticks are going after him, beating him. And this is like a 60-something-year-old guy. And this is all in the news last week. In Finchley Road in London, this car with a loudspeaker said, F the Jews, F their daughters, F their mothers, rape their daughters, and free Palestine. And this is like, I mean, who can even tolerate these sort of things happening? But they said free Palestine. So, it makes it kosher. Same sort of thing in this door of this this temple also in the UK, in I don't remember, Norwalk, I think. It says, Kike, free Palestine, has a swastika. But hey, it says free Palestine, so therefore that makes it all okay, right? This is pure. And then I did a look, just looking for the words Hitler and Jews on Twitter, and as of a couple days ago, there would be a new tweet every 2 minutes that would have something like that. Some of them were saying explicitly, hey, Hitler was great. Some of them would say I don't endorse Hitler, but you know what, he's right. Here was like this person just out of nowhere. It's just, and this person clearly not a white nationalist. She says, we know why you did what you did. You should have done more. It says, okay, I'm sorry, if Israel needs to be wiped off the map. This is like nutty stuff over here. And then there's the Pakistani actress that said that shared the Hitler quote saying, and it's not a true Hitler quote saying I should have killed all the Jews of the world, but I kept some of them to show the world why I killed them. That quote is super popular among Arab social media. It's all over the place, and it's not just now. It's been there for a long time. And you think this is Gaza that's because of this? This is ridiculous. Nothing to do with Gaza. This stuff happens all the time. But right now people have an excuse saying, "Oh, Israel's doing terrible things in Gaza." Israel's not doing terrible things in Gaza. There was I just saw like a statistic saying Israel dropped 1,000 bombs on Gaza so far, and at least 60, of the people that are killed. I think it was far more than that, but at least 60 that we know of have been terrorists. So the rest they killed is like, how do you drop 1,000 bombs and not kill, more people than this? This is and of course, Ilhan Omar says, oh, dropping a bomb on a school is a war crime. No, dropping a bomb on a school and targeting it is a war crime. Dropping a bomb on a school that is also happens to be a place that weapons are being hidden, or terrorists are meeting, or it's a command and control center, or it's a jamming, place that tries to jam. They say, I heard this as a rumor, I'm not 100% sure it's true, that the that media building that had AP and Al Jazeera and Middle East Eye that Israel knocked down, that it was actually had 3 floors of electronic equipment trying to jam Iron Dome. Now again, I haven't verified this, but if you think about it, the entire purpose of jamming Iron Dome would be so Iron Dome wouldn't work, so more Jews would die from Hamas rockets. And people are supporting this. People are supporting it. People are saying that, they are, pro-Palestinian right now. Again, the Ilhan Omars and the Rashida Tlaibs of the world, they're not saying that they are, what they're saying specifically is that they're not saying, oh, I disagree with Hamas, but, do this. They're not saying a word about Hamas. If they're saying they're pro-Palestinian, that means they're pro-Hamas. If they don't say anything negative about Hamas, it means they are pro-Hamas. And they haven't said anything bad about Hamas. Why not? Why haven't they done this? Why has the left been so completely silent about Hamas to begin with during this entire war? And they have been. Only if they're purely forced to, they come up with the back, they say, okay, it might not be great, but you have to understand they're under occupation. No, they're not under occupation. Gaza's not under occupation. It hasn't been under occupation for over 15 years. This is, the Palestinians could have built it into a Singapore. It's on the Mediterranean. They could have done whatever they wanted with it, and instead they decided, let's build 100 kilometers of underground tunnels and use everything that we do in order to be able to set up for the next war with the Jews. That's their priority. Not bomb shelters, not trying to get jobs, not trying to build an economy, none of that stuff. The top priority of the people that run Gaza is to do what they can in order to get ready for this current war. Don't tell me that's not anti-Semitic. And then it's getting even worse even after I did this. If you haven't seen this, this is unreal. This is in Los Angeles, I believe yesterday. There was Jews were just sitting eating in a sushi bar on the outside, and like 10 Palestinian cars rolled up, and there are other videos in which you hear them cursing at them, and they started hitting them and chasing after them. This is not what nonviolence looks like, right? This is not at all what nonviolence looks like. But nobody says anything. It's like, okay, maybe they'll get arrested, they won't, whatever, it happens. Here, there's the, do I have it here? I think it's the next one. No, there's the synagogue. There's the other thing from before. This is unbelievable. This was in Vienna. This is just unreal. I hope you guys can hear this. It is, this guy says, first there's a regular speech, the regular anti-Israel speech, but then one guy says something in the middle. He says, shove the Holocaust up your ass, and all of these, what look like college-age Muslim women, become ecstatic at that expression. That was essentially a standing ovation for a man screaming, "Shove the Holocaust up your ass." And according to this, according to Elam Levy, that Jewish students were the object of these screams. I don't know that. I didn't see that. I'm sure he's right, but that's that's this is in Vienna today. So let's go a little bit. Actually, you know what? Before I get to my definition of anti-Semitism, which I've been pushing a little bit, just one other thing that drove me a little bit crazy this weekend. I got the latest Time magazine, Visions of Equity. Okay, a lot of magazines have been spending a lot of time talking about equity, not equality, equity that has to be done in order to make things right with with racism. And I'm not going to say that racism isn't bad or anything like that. Obviously, it is. But something struck me when I was reading what the Time magazine articles about equity and about the different populations that have to be helped with this. There are most of the articles are about race, but it also talks about things like LGBTQ, and it talks about Asians and about all these other different types of discrimination that are out there. But it doesn't say anything about Jews. Now, let's think. If you look at the FBI hate crime statistics, the last ones were in 2019, the highest, forgetting religion, of any sort of hate crime incidents, the highest number was anti-black, was pure racism. The second highest number was anti-Jewish. Among anti-religion ones, anti-Jewish dwarfs everybody else. Anti-Jewish is 953 in 2019, anti-Muslim second place 176. Okay, so it's roughly 7 times the number of anti-Muslim incidents that are out there in crimes in that year. Anti-gay is 700. So there's obviously a lot of hate that's out there. But even though the people that are in the progressive space that say, oh, we're all in solidarity together, the only way to fight anti-Semitism is to fight all the other hates that are out there, hatreds, and then we can work together and we will be there for you just like you're there for us, and all sort of thing. Where are they now? Where are they when these people are making these chants right now? Where are they about Los Angeles? They're not saying a word. They're not saying a word, not a damn thing. They don't say anything about that. Where's Time magazine talking about, Jews are being attacked in the streets, and not just during the war. Religious Jews have been attacked for the past couple of years, not just in the United States, but everywhere else, only because of they're Jews. That's it, just of how they dress. There was an incident of only a few weeks ago in which this guy backed up his van into a crowd of Jews in Brooklyn and knocked them over. Just, hey, whatever, you're allowed to do this. Sure, Jews are. Where are the people that are protecting the Jews? There are all of these white people, all of these people that, saying, oh, I will put my body in the way in order to help to stop the discrimination against LGBTQ and against women, against black people, against Puerto Ricans, against Asians. I will do everything. But Jews, nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's only lip service, unless there's one exception. If Jews are attacked by Nazis, all of a sudden, then they go crazy. They go, oh, yeah, we hate that. We really are against that. We're against the only anti-Semitism they're against are the ones that come from Nazis. If it comes from anybody else, black people, we saw last summer that there were black people that were on Twitter that were saying horrendous anti-Semitic stuff. Celebrities were saying these things. And the left, quiet, nothing. They don't say a thing. Roger Waters went on an amazing anti-Semitic rant, not anti-Israel, anti-Semitic rant, using Sheldon Adelson as his model, but he was talking about the exact same stuff that the Nazis say that were in the Talmud. And he's saying, the Jews, he didn't say Jews, he was saying Adelson, but he meant the Jews, that, he felt that that everybody else is subhuman and this and that. And he's like, he clearly read this from neo-Nazi sites. That's where Roger Waters got this stuff from. Did anybody say anything? I think 1 or 2 people said something. 1 or 2 people on the left said there is something. Then the Arabs and the people that are pro-Arab started screaming at them saying, how dare you say anything negative about Roger Waters? Of course he's not anti-Semitic. And then they just, they folded. And they said, oh, okay, you're right, everything's fine, yeah, sure. And, and the same sort of thing with, these, there's so many examples like this that keep coming up. And it's just like, they don't care. The left is part of the problem for anti-Semitism. Yes, there are people on the left that are great. Richie Torres, and there are people that are the Zionist movement that are that really get it and that they understand what the importance of Israel, but they are in the minority. They are in the minority on the progressive side, and it looks like maybe not this year. It looks like this year things are okay, but within a few years in the Democratic Party, it looks like they're going to be in the minority also. This is really, really scary. Um, so again, as I said, I'm not as being organized as I'd like to be, but I would like to push a little bit. I came up with a definition of anti-Semitism, and this deserves an entire show in itself to talk about the IRA definition, the Jerusalem Declaration, which was specifically trying to exclude anti-Zionism of any sort from being considered anti-Semitism. But when I came up with this definition, and the more I look at it, the more I really think it's a great one. I don't want to supplant IRA by any means, because IRA obviously has a lot of traction. It's already being used by many nations, but maybe this could help maybe sharpen it a little bit more, because both IRA and JDA really feel that they have to go through examples in order to talk about what type of anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. And I think that this definition takes care of all of that stuff. You don't need examples in my definition. So I'm saying anti-Semitism is, and then put these in square brackets, hostility towards, denigration of, malicious lies about, or discrimination against Jews. And then what are Jews? Jews as individual Jews, as a people, as a religion, as an ethnic group, or as a nation, Israel. And this way, the hostility towards, I think, includes violence. So I'm not, people were saying, well, you're not mentioning actual attacks, but I think that includes that. But the denigration of, meaning anything that is, so in other words, when you're saying criticism of Israel, denigration is not criticism. Denigration, by definition, is unfair criticism. So that takes care of that issue, saying, oh, you don't allow us to criticize Israel. Of course you're allowed to criticize Israel. IRA makes this, the IRA definition makes this explicit, but I'm including it inside the actual text of the definition without having to go to explanatory examples. Malicious lies about, which is one of the things I added to this, but I think it's a really great addition. This takes care of things like Holocaust denial, denying that Jews have any history in Israel or in Jerusalem, saying that Jews are not really Jews, that they're really Khazars, which, by the way, when I should have mentioned it earlier when I was going through the history of Arab anti-Semitism, in all of the debates before the partition resolution in 1947, the Syrian representative loved saying that European Jews weren't really Jews, and that's why they didn't belong in Palestine, because they were really Khazars. And he said it 3 or 4 times in different speeches, and he just loved that theory. It's an anti-Semitic theory. It's complete anti-Semitism. It's saying, hey, you Jews, you're really not Jews. I know what a Jew is better than you do. It's pure anti-Semitism. But any of these malicious lies is anti-Semitic, and this is covered by this definition. And then discrimination against, obviously, discrimination is going to be a, it's something you want to avoid. It's certainly discrimination against Jews, obviously, is anti-Semitism. So, and then I say, okay, then we define what Jews are, because Jews have many different definitions. There are different ways of looking at Jews. Jew is not only a religion, it's not only a people. So as individual Jews, meaning you attack somebody because they're Jewish, or somebody attacks somebody, they're Jews as a people, Jews as a religion, Jews as an ethnic group, which is not the exact same thing as a people, and then Jews as a nation, which in this case is Israel. So what's so good about, one of the things that's good about this definition is that it doesn't distinguish between any of those 5 categories. Doing any of the things on the left, hostility towards, denigration of, malicious lies, or discrimination against Israel, is just as anti-Semitic as against doing it against Jews as a people or as a religion. And that's logical, because right now half the Jews in the world live in Israel. 90% of Jews support Israel. They're Zionist. They are, Israel clearly represents Jews, and over time it's going to represent more and more of them as the rest of the Jews slowly disappear from the planet, as we're seeing from the latest Pew poll of how American Jews at least are getting less and less interested in maintaining any sort of ties to Judaism outside of, you know, gastronomical, eating bagels. But it's a, and, but at any rate, so this is, there's no distinction between looking at Jews as a nation in Israel or looking at Jews as a religious people. All of them are equal, denigrating those groups are all equally bad. And again, so that's again, it's a there's no way I'm going to get the whole world to accept my definition of anti-Semitism, but it opens up a lot of things when you look at this. Like, for example, one of the things that I came up with after I saw this, one of the things I realized is that, there are a lot of, people who are like, anti-Israel Jews or anti-Zionist Jews that want to say, well, hey, you don't define me as a Jew, right? You can't define me. I am Jewish, even though I'm anti-Israel, and you can't take that away. So let's think about that. In a very limited sense, you could say that's true. However, what ties do they have to any of these categories? They pretty much use their Judaism, and these are the as a Jews, and there are so many. If you just look at Twitter for the phrase as a Jew, you'll see a lot of them that came out of the woodwork because of the current war that's going on. They say, as a Jew, I'm saying that Israel is awful or whatever. That's the typical thing they're going to be saying. And so, what makes them as a Jew? These are people that are Jewish essentially as an accident of birth, with very rare exceptions. These are people that have nothing to do. So they're saying, oh, you can't denigrate me as a Jew because I'm a Jew and I'm saying that Israel's awful. But what about all the people that actually have emotional ties to Israel? That's more as a Jew than anything else. So they're trying to, not that when they say as a Jew, they're not only saying that they as a Jew have the same rights to be able to say something negative about Israel as anybody else, but they're also trying to subtly denigrate the people who actually are Jewish and feel Jewish and do everything Jewish that and identify with Judaism in many aspects, including being a Zionist, because that's part of what being a Jew is nowadays. That's an inherent part of being a Jew nowadays. Yes, it's possible. Yes, I know about Neturei Karta. Fine. There's 200 religious Jews that really hate Israel. Great. And who also happen to love Iran, who also happen to who happen to hug the president of Iran. That's great. That doesn't represent anybody. The Azza Jews don't represent anybody, but here we have a list. These are people that really identify with Judaism, and when you go and try to denigrate them or say malicious lies about them or you're hostile towards them, that is anti-Semitic. Of course it's anti-Semitic. So that's my piece about this. Anyway, I've probably spoken too long, but this is where I'm at. I just wanted to get this off my chest. Let me just see what we have in the comments. Okay, this person's saying he's getting a lot of hate comments on Twitter because he says Israel has a right to resist. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Rabbi Sachs did have great stuff about this. And hi, Jeff from Kentucky. At any rate, I hope that you learned something, and hopefully I'll get back into this. It does take a lot of energy and time to do this, but this has been, the war's been crazy. The war's been absolutely nuts. The amount of lies and the amount of, people that don't know anything that are talking about the war, and maybe I'll talk about the war completely separately because that's a whole different thing. Ilana Omar came up with the saying of talking about international law, and she knows nothing about international law. And the people that are doing all of the body counts, like, oh, because Israel spent millions or hundreds of millions of dollars on Iron Dome and on shelters and managed to save, who knows how many lives, that should be a penalty for Israel because more Jews aren't dying compared to the number of Gaza. This is crazy, crazy stuff. And these are people that are pretending to be so righteous and so holier than thou. And they're the ones that are coming out with this saying, and it's not just them. The newspapers are saying, have you ever seen a war in which they came up with a body count saying, well, this side did this side did this, therefore that side must be wrong? Who does that? You know, whoever came up with that? Who says that's the Americans that were bombing ISIS? That's ISIS killed. America killed 2,000 ISIS, and ISIS only killed 100 Americans. Therefore, it's not fair. This is crazy. Nobody does that sort of thing except when it comes to Israel. We saw it in all the previous wars. We're seeing it now. Whatever. Maybe I'll get into it. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. I appreciate the people that dropped by. And for now, I'm Elder, and have a good evening.